Hi everyone, welcome to this month's MS Doug United. It's March already. This year's been flying past. We haven't had many of these events, but welcome to our first event for the year. But yes, Happy New Year for those that that's arriving for the first time, and welcome and thank you for attending. Yeah, so let me start off by thanking our new sponsor for 2022, it's OfferZen. So they are our official sponsor for the year. So that means we're going to get some really, really good swag and goodies to give away to the audience. So thank you again to OfferZen for always supporting our community and doing great stuff for us. Something from OfferZen that's really, really interesting is the State of the Developer Nation report. So what OfferZen did was they did a survey. They do the survey every year where they interview and receive survey results from developers all over South Africa. It's a great place to know what developers are using, what languages, what frameworks. It's also a very good place to find out how much people are being paid, so you can then decide if you're doing the right framework and right tech for the bang for the buck. So I suggest you go look at the survey. It is very, very interesting and gives you lots of insights for your career in the tech environment. Okay, so this is online events, but what we're looking to do is to move to in-person events again. So that's something that I'm really excited about because yes, we've been in this online bubble since 2020. We canceled loads and loads of in-person events in March 2020, but we're thinking of moving back to in-person. I always like in-person because it's one-on-one interactions is always more fun and interaction is always good. But we also want to do it in a very safe and responsible way. So I've got a survey as well that I'm going to share as well. I'll put it in the comments as well so that you can respond. So please fill in the survey so we know what concerns you have, what we can do also better to make the in-person events something that you really want to attend, and also make the online versions also better. So please do fill in this in the survey as well. So we definitely want to hear from you. But what we do have planned, for the year, let me just remove myself so you can see this. What we do have planned for the year is three big series of in-person events. We're looking to do a .NET Developer Days. So those that's familiar with the Xamarin Dev Days that we did a few years ago, similar, where we have like a full day of hands-on hacking and things and looking at awesome .NET content and mobile content. We'll probably also include the new MAUI frameworks and things like that from the mobile world. And then we're also looking, probably a lot of the attendees attended a IoT and AI hack series that we ran in 2019 and 2020 with little robots and things, and as Lou calls them, Skynets, and little AI bots and the little Terminator bots. So what we're going to do is also bring that series back and complete it, because we've many of those or content for those to run. So those will be hands-on hacks.net, doing IoT and AI type things. And then we also got another series where it's related to sustainability, and of course that's related to growing plants, ensuring things are alive, using technology and things to do that. So that will also be a beginner IoT series and progressing all the way to something that's more complex. But please do fill in the survey. It'll also help us with how to do these events and when to do them as well. And hopefully everyone's comfortable, because I'm really looking forward to doing these events again in person and seeing people in 3D, which I'm not quite used to anymore. Yeah, so the reason why we're here tonight, we've got two awesome speakers. We've got Lou, which will be speaking about terms of engagement, the golden rules. It'll be looks like a very hands-on UX talk, which should be really, really interesting. We have Gordon speaking about GitHub and managing projects and issue tracking and things with GitHub. So we've got two amazing speakers tonight, so we are very lucky. So I hope you enjoy them. Okay, so again, just to show, we're using this via YouTube. If you're viewing it via Twitch, you can interact with us via the normal YouTube and Twitch chat. Any questions, feel free to ask, and especially in Lou's talk, please do interact with her, because it is a more touchy, hands-on type talk as well. So please do interact with us, and any questions you want to know, please ask. I probably won't be able to answer them, so we have got a whole team online that's available to answer any question that you may have. Okay, and thank you once again for attending, and thank you for .NET Foundation, which is also one of our sponsors. Everyone has something interesting to say, so please do also submit talks to our community as well. We have a sessionized for our two main user groups, which is the Johannesburg and the Cape Town group. I'll also share those links as well in the comments as well, so that you can submit your own talks. Everyone has something interesting to say, so please do share with the community. And thank you once again for attending. So I'm going to hand over now to Lou, and yes, enjoy the evening.
No pressure. Thanks, Alan. So
no pressure at all.
All right. So I have to admit to a few things up front. My demo broke itself thanks to WordPress at 2 o'clock this morning. So I've had to make quite a few revisions. So I hope you're all sitting, and if you aren't, please sit down. Grab your cell phones. I've also made it on desktop, so just open up a browser. It is an interactive demo. There are prizes. I am giving away some of my incredibly large private sticker collection that I've been collecting over COVID. So I've got about 700 stickers, and I will be grabbing the email addresses of the top 3 participants, our top 3 hunters, and I will be posting you or giving to you in person at DevCon your stickers. So please interact, and let's hope for the best, shall we? I haven't spoken in 2 years. Okay, so come, take a seat. We're going to do some stuff. Oh, wrong window. It's not a bug, it's a feature. So this is how my talk's laid out. We're going to do an intro about myself. We're going to actually look into the terms of engagement, what it is to interact with your user. And we're going to talk about being a champion to your users. And of course, then we're going to do some prize giving. So it all starts with the hello, and then I never shut up, do I? So hello world is the one thing that every single developer in the world knows how to do, and even some users. Who am I? So my name is Lou van der Bijl. I run a consultancy called Nova Experience. On a good day, I'm a full stack front-end developer and designer. And on a bad day, I do Afrikaans translations for WordPress, because apparently I was Hitler in a past life. So this is what we are going to do. So I've called it the Sin Seeker Hunt, for obvious reasons. So how it's going to work is that as you progress with me through the demo, we are going to be doing tasks. We're going to try and find some bugs. There's some random clicks. So work with me, and you get points assigned to your user that you're going to register in the first task. And then every stage I will talk about what wasn't achieved and what should be achieved as we go through everything. I'm also going to be giving away some stickers for participating. So please, as we go through the demo, please talk, ask questions, stickers. So if you want to rage quit, please don't. Literally, it took me 4 days to badly design this website. So it is my goal to infuriate you and absolutely frustrate you. And I'll give you a sticker if you do threaten to rage quit, but it has to be an honest rage quit. You have to give me reasons. So UI is a user interface. It is a very interesting overlap between user experience, technology, and business. And it's why we consider it a team sport, because there is that wonderful overlap. And then as a developer, your thing is data. And as a front-ender or a UXer, your thing is experience. So business, I'm sorry, your thing is documentation. Sorry, not sorry. But if no one can consume your data, what is the point? So understanding how everything fits together and how it plays ball with, from a data point of view, from a layout point of view, and a user experience point of view, makes the difference between a happy user and a frustrated user. And a frustrated client doesn't pay. As a UXer, they don't need to know your data. They need to focus on the user journey. And you as a developer need to understand what data you're going to be showing. And heaven forbid you're going to be showing a table in a responsive site. But just having a few of the basic understandings of how the user experience translates into a user interface can make or break a project. So, is everyone ready? All right. I would like I apologize for the URL. I'll give you the backstory right now. Can everyone please go to sunseeker.snafza.co.za. Snafza was my partner who died 2 years ago's gamer's nick, so that is why it's a very weird one. I'm still waiting for the registration on sunseeker.co.za. Please no one register it before me. But your task now is to please go and register. I want you to find the registration. I want you to fill it out. I want you to try and get to your account page. And then I want you to just change your profile. So upload a picture, change your bio, work with everything there. So I'm going to just give you a couple of moments, and in the chat, if you can just kind of raise a paw or an exclamation or something along those lines, just let me know that you're done, or you're rage quitting and can't find what you want to do. Alan, play nice with Matthew. And I'm actually checking the leaderboard to make sure that you are interacting. Because if you don't interact, it's a pretty pointless demo. Jazz hands. Can someone just verify that the site is up? Okay, go Antonio. Just register. I just want everyone to register, get a username and password. Please don't worry. Pop here is in effect because I pretty much delete everything once everything's finished. I have your email addresses already, to be fair. And as we work through the demo, you'll see I really don't care about your information. I care about you. All right, so it looks like we've got a couple of people getting there. Let's have a look at our leaderboard. Nicely done. Okay, thanks everyone. I'm going to just move on to the next couple of slides just so we can talk about the pain that you've just gone through. So as you can see, for me as a front-end developer, I really, Antonio, yes, I don't care about your information. I have your cell phone number. So I struggle to make this a bad experience. So it's probably not as bad as I could have made it. But as you can see, that chaos was the golden thread. It's not so easy when there's been absolutely no thought put into you as the user's time or even your data usage. One of those images is 9.5 megs. I'm going to make it smaller. I just figured everyone was going to be on their Wi-Fi for this talk. But this entire little hunt could have been solved just by a simple menu link or a button at the top. And you've got to remember that overcomplicating something for show means you've lost your user. They don't want to spend hours trying to do a simple task as register. And you've got to remember that all applications can be broken down into 4 very key groups. You've got your import controls, you've got navigation, you've got information, which is usually static content, and then you've got your containers, which you as the developer play in. And you can have all of these glorious things and still completely miss the point of usability, as you've seen. I had your navigation, your container, information, but it meant nothing because it took you a while to figure out what the heck was going on. So you've got to remember that form without function is a complete waste of time. Oh, sorry, other way around. Sorry, function without form is a complete waste of time. Form without function is art, and art is always up to interpretation. And if you leave that up to a client, they're going to be unhappy and not pay because that's them interpreting. So you need to be able to pull it all together and actually make it simple and user-friendly. So you want to lay everything out on a silver platter for your user going, here's what we can do for you. And instead of having to look underneath the tray to try and find the good stuff, it's all laid out, it's all brought together. But you also have to remember that stuff like ads, spacing, readability, accessibility, buttons, all of that encapsulates the user journey. And all of this is going to help your user get to your functionality. So this rule is, this rule is keep it simple. Always remember KISS. The other rule that I think you would have started to find is that there was absolutely no consistency. So the principle of least surprise comes into play here, where if you keep your golden thread of your user experience, your user interface, along with your data, and you make sure that your users are not confused and it's constant throughout your site, you will have an easier way of interacting with your user, and your user will be consuming your data a hell of a lot better. So no user should ever sit there and go, what am I supposed to do now? So you want to use words, actions, colors, fonts, iconography. All of this is just little pieces of an incredible puzzle that brings a UI together. But remember that we also stand on the shoulders of giants. So everyone knows what the hamburger menu is, right? We've been using it since responsive sites came into being. Why would you try and be innovative and then put a star or a heart? You're just going to confuse your user, because you also want to bring together what they've learned from previous websites. And with that, you want to start learning what the word, intuitive meant. And intuitive and innovative are not always the same thing. So with everyone looking at register, the button was red. Red is a bad color. I know it's the color of my slides. So the login was minute and in green. And so, we've taught users how to work with colors. Like warning is red, green is go. You need to start pulling together the user's knowledge of when they get to your site and then start training them as you work through your site. Site application. So, sure it pays. Overkill of anything is murder. So as Bruce Lee said, you want to be fluid, you want to be water. You want to carry your user in a manner that feels effortless, and natural bombardment, or any bombardment, is kind of being like dragged across gravel, not floating it down a river or on a lazy duck. So just remember that everything in moderation. All right, you up for your next task, everyone? So too much of a bad thing is bad. Too much of anything is bad. So what I want you to do is, somewhere on the site is a link to an overdose page. I want you to go on there. I want you to comment. I want you to have some fun. Please be nice to each other, because if you're a bitch, I'm going to minus 5 points. All right. But with that, my favorite picture of all time for just because you can doesn't mean you should is this. I think we should take away Antonio's keyboard. Okay, I'm just going to give you another minute. All right, while you're working this through, I am going to pop into the next slide. So overkill means, and in the good old words of Mortal Kombat, fatality. Too much of a bad thing is horrendous. Overuse of colors, words, ads, images, everything slows down your app. It makes it clunky and unusable, especially when you're considering responsive and accessibility. So you've always got to remember that you're not only causing pain for your user, you're also causing pain for yourself. At all times, go to rule 1 and rule 2. Be consistent in your kiss. Keep your golden thread. And at any time, remove the pointless fluff. Remove the pointless information. If you have to show it once. Make it readable, make it consumable. So one of the big things when interacting with your user, making something user-friendly, is offering informative feedback to your users. So you actually know, they know where they are, they know what they're doing, they know where they've messed up. So if anyone's used the LastPass app on their Android device, if you have two-factor authentication turned on and you have to relog in and you click SMS code or text message, nothing happens. So you tap it a few more times. 2 seconds later, you have a flood of SMSs that come through to your phone. And if you mistype or misguess those numbers 3 times, you lock yourself out for 24 hours. That entire hell process and locking yourself out of your LastPass for 24 hours could have been solved with a simple feedback message that just said, message sent. And you would have patiently waited for South African telecoms to catch up. All right, everyone ready? All right, let's go to the function menu and off you go. There is a secret 10-pointer. So see if you can find it. I know your eyes hurt. I got it right. While you're working on this, I'm going to go through the next slide because it does kind of illustrate my point. So communication with your user is, a user should never ever have to worry about where they are, if words mean the same thing or a different thing, or, you know, if they screw up or if they don't screw up, or how do they get back, how do they change something. Your user is going to make mistakes. And for every action, there should be an appropriate and user-readable feedback reaction in a reasonable amount of time. There's no point in getting that message saying text sent 2 minutes later, because by then you've already tapped the button 10 times. So what you want to do is you want to use processing, spinning wheels, undo buttons, step by step. And sometimes, as you can see, step by step doesn't always work out too well. But you also want to help and teach your user to go through everything. You want to inform them of major actions that are severe using the correct severity of feedback. And for little actions, little feedback. You're not going to blast a red screen at a user who has just misspelled, a cell phone number. But you're not going to have a little undo button if they've just said, please delete database. One of my favorite examples about this actually happened last week, where I wanted to change my DevConf return ticket on SA Fair, Fly SA Fair, and I changed the ticket for 12 people without knowing it. And then at the bottom was this massive banner that said, are you sure you want to change the return date for these users? I had a small absolute condenser and immediately hit cancel. The severity of my action was responded back to me. And so I knew exactly what I had done wrong. It would have been funny as hell, though. So use your visual cues, work with your user. And just remember that your goal is to never remove user errors. Users, as the saying goes, you can make something user-proof, universe gives you stupider users. The goal is to always make sure that you and your user are in tune, so they know where they are and you know where they are. So prevent errors is one thing, but be forgiving. Like Fly SA Fair basically was forgiving to me, saying, oh my God, are you absolutely sure you want to make this 12,500 Rand change? Front-end error handling, back-end error handling, step-by-step, sizable chunks. All of this will help your user kind of work their way through your application and consume your data and provide you with data that's not going to mess you up. So errors and mistakes happen. And so what you always want to do is that you want to make sure, as I said, your user can go back and change, know what they've done wrong, and break things up into chapters and steps and keep a steady rhythm process. If a user knows that they have got 5 questions to answer per step, they can almost time their actions and make the choice of whether they want to continue with your process or not. You can make everything user-proof, but you're going to be wrong. Someone is always going to prove you wrong. So just everything will be okay. It was our saying for 2020. It was our saying for 2021. Keep it with you, because if you can assure that your user that everything is okay and you can fix it, automatically they become a calmer, more cooperative user. And cooperative users are happy users, and happy users make happy clients. Hi, Richard. Good for you to join us. All right, everyone. Please join us for your last task. And I did try and make this one as user-friendly as possible. Keep it straight and simple. Keep it uncluttered, easy to work with, informative. And as I said, pop here is in effect because I delete everything once I've got your email addresses. And to be fair, I did run out of ideas. Okay, it was a very quick form. So when I talk, everyone talks about rock stars and champions. Now, I want you to be a champion for your users, a champion that your users deserve. Users are not the enemy. They are your make or break. And you want to bring it together. You as a developer know how a site works. A designer know how a site behaves and feels. And there's a massive gap to link those two together. So you, just by using even some of these, just general look, feel, and user experience to user interface ideas and ground knowledge, you can fill a serious gap and you will be unstoppable and you will be a team player second to none. So just a couple of tips that I've picked up over the past 20 years is that a confused user does not pay. Everything that makes your client's life easier is worthy of your time and effort. And if you put a time and effort into your interfaces, in showing your data, allowing your user to consume that data in an easy way, you will be unstoppable. Form, function, and performance. I always leave performance to the end because I'm still trying to figure it out. There is such a delicate balance between the three. Everything needs to be efficient. Your functionality, your performance, everything needs to pull together and act as one. And know your target market. A customer comes to you not because he doesn't have problems. He's come to you to solve a problem. You need to take on that task to not just solve it from a technical point of view, but to lay out the entire smorgasbord. Shut up, woman. Bring on the swag. All right. Let's have a look. Okay, so our leaderboard currently stands. Matthew, you don't get stickers, dude. At 87 points. Stephen, 83 points. Kat, you're on 79. Daniel, 77. Antonio, 71. Roma, 69. WS. Who is WS? Let's have a look. Lauren, 60. Ashley, 58. Angel, 58. Guys, thank you. That is really, really awesome. Thank you so much. So I'm afraid that organizational team members do not get stickers. So Stephen, Daniel, and Antonio, you are going to be our sticker winners. But because there are only 10 of you and I've got a lot of stickers, I will email each of you and I will give you stickers for participation. And Antonio's already chosen his, so that's all good there. So geeks will inherit the earth. It's a firm believer. It's a firm saying of mine. And, we're part of a user group here, and it's to be part of something bigger than yourself. I mean, our communities are global at the moment. We've got like-minded people learning together. It's never boring, and someone's always got something to bring to the fold. And something I've learned by getting a mentor myself is own your journey. Find a mentor, become a mentor, stand up and be counted and take part. And let's be honest, impossible is a word that we don't understand, but we're all getting swag, so we're all happy with that. I am going to end off with one thing, and that is my absolute favorite saying for us as the geekdom. Stay foolish, stay hungry. Steve Jobs said this at a university talk, and it was exactly what I think we as a tech industry need to do. We need to stay hungry. We need to just believe that absolutely anything is possible. And, because every good information stealer puts up her sources and her Goodreads, this is where I got most of my information from. I spend a lot of time on these sites, and it's a great, great bunch of reads. And ta-da! Thank you, guys. This was amazing. I'm so chuffed that the demo worked well. How did you find it? Do we have any questions? Yes, Matt, we know you're always hungry. I can't feed you guys. I'm sorry. I don't have vouchers this time around. And I don't have milkshakes either. So I have to admit, how was it as a user experience? Like, did I hit my mark by irritating the living heck out of all of you? So maybe I should put in a couple more secret points. The site was, it's actually taken me 3 weeks to design just those steps because I constantly found myself correcting it. And as you know, putting the wrong colors on the buttons. Okay, so the secret points, if you go to the third step, in that big banner with all the little things, there's a click me there that's worth 20 points. And if you click there and then you didn't click here, you also were able to double up. It's a lot of play. But thank you so much, Angel. Do you have any questions? And I'm sorry if I made your eyes bleed, everyone. As I said, it hurt my head trying to actually get the site to be unusable. Oh, well, let's close that. Oh, my passwords. Take me off screen. Remove. There we go. Okay, well, if there is no more questions, I'm going to hand over to Gordon. How do I hand over to Gordon?
Thank you very much. That was an awesome talk.
I do have to just. Did anyone choose jazz hands? Because if it's jazz hands, then jazz hands.
Yeah, so thank you very much. That was an awesome talk. We can now hand over to Gordon.
Cool. How's it? Do the normal, can you hear me? Can you see me? Everything should be good. I feel like I've broken this. Oh, I'm doing the right thing. Cool. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about GitHub issues and projects as it stands of March 2022. And that's partially important because a lot of the stuff is currently in beta. So my name's Gordon Beaming. I'm a father, husband. I'm a DevOps specialist at Dorifco, a triathlete, and a Microsoft MVP in the GitHub and Azure DevOps space. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to be going through projects and issues. So basically, we'll be diving through what issues are, how you can customize issues. We'll then jump into projects and how projects and issues play together. And then we're going to flex on all the other planning tools because GitHub projects and issues are amazing and the other tools are not so amazing. As you can tell, I'm very excited. So what are GitHub issues? Essentially, it's basically just some attributed markup. And that doesn't sound so sexy, but when you use it, you'll see that it is very sexy. There's different ways that you can create issues, and you can customize what these sort of template issues are at the organization level, or if you prefer, you can customize it at a local repository level as well. And in the event that either your workflow needs it, or that someone logs an issue in the wrong repository, you can actually move those between repos. So let's dive into a quick demo. So for the start of this demo, we're going to go into this demo repository that I created called Silver Robot, which I'll use for today's demos. We'll go over to the issue tab, click on new issue, and then in the bottom left here, we're just going to say open a blank issue. Now, in the case of us wanting to log a bug, if we're starting out with a blank issue, from a user perspective, there's not much to guide you on what you need to do to sort of create a nice, rich bug, in this case, for the person you're logging the bug for. So we'll say the login screen doesn't show the login button, not particularly helpful, but then we'll make it a little bit more helpful by adding a description, which in itself isn't that helpful either. So we say, I'd expect a login button before typing an email address. We're going to go and assign this to the bot. I'm going to mark this as a bug, and I'm going to say this is a good first issue. Also, what we can do while we're here is we just say that this is part of this Sprint 1 milestone. And then also as part of the description, if we look at the preview, it looks pretty bland. So let's just go and highlight some text and bold that up, and we'll make this into italics. So there we just use Control B and Control R shortcut links, but there's also the buttons at the top. So we'll submit that. We've now gone and created our first issue. That's awesome, except it's not very helpful for the person that needs to pick this up. Odds are that for this repo, there's a whole bunch of information that's useful for them when they create or when they need to fix bugs. So in this example, we've got a issue template. And what we've done here is basically given hints, if you will, in the issue body of what we'd expect the user to input. So we've put our title as dark mode on login screen isn't that dark. Now we need to describe what this bug is, or what this actually means, because that's the hint we've been given. So we go and say that I'd expect dark mode to be almost black, but it's more of a gray at the moment. Next, they want us to give some repo steps. Sometimes this could feel very obvious, but a lot of the more sort of harder bugs to debug, this is going to be quite helpful to know sort of what those steps are that you have to follow as a user to reproduce the bug. So we'll just say we change to dark mode, and then watch how it's not dark enough. Expected behavior is that it should be darker than it is. It's a whole bunch of fields here that we're just going to say, oh, we don't care about this, or we don't have the information for that, so we're going to go and remove that. You can see already we, as a user, we given the option in this case to go and remove a whole bunch of stuff that we don't think is super valuable, or that at least we don't have the information for. So from an issue perspective now, you can see the information there is lit up in the format that we had asked for it to be. But it also didn't guide the user that much, as you saw when we filled this in. So in this case, we're going to use issue forms. So yeah, we've prefixed the title, just saying it's a bug. For some reason, it felt like a good idea to do that as part of the org template. So we're going to go say, in this case, the login form is not docked to the right on the home page. It says it needs an email address so we can get contacted. In this case, I guess I'm like Lou and I don't really care much for the privacy of people's email addresses. So we'll just capture that there. The next thing is what happened. So he has a little description of what the issue was. And again, we can mark that up if we want to. We got a drop list of what the different browsers are that are affected. So it was Chrome and Edge. We don't have any logs in this case. And we've clicked that we agree to the code of conduct for this repo. So that process was a lot more guarded. And as you can see, we had drop lists, much richer experience as a user to follow through. And I mentioned there was org templates, and that's driven from this community health files repo. So there's a .github repository, which you can drive a lot of your sort of defaults for your whole organization from. And inside the .github folder, there's the issue templates folder, and that's got these templates that we're running at the moment. So if we look at the config YAML, you can see there's an attribute there for allowing blanks, which we created a blank issue from. Here's our markdown for that markdown template issue that we created. And then here's the YAML for that issue form that we ended up creating. So you can see we've got a whole bunch of a bit more strongly typed definitions for how to build up those forms, with what the options need to be, whether you can choose multiple or single options, placeholder text. And yeah, that's all there. So the next thing we want to do is go and make some edits to that, just to because sometimes I don't believe stuff. It feels like it's smoke and mirrors. So in this case, we'll just go and add a step 5 here to the markdown steps, just to show that this is actually where this comes from, because the proof is in the pudding, I guess. So we'll go add a wait for it, see if it fixes, maybe reboot as part of our template. We'll check that in. We'll go back to the Silver Robot repo. And if we go to issues and create a new issue, and then we, okay, wrong one. So this is the forms issue. We need to go back and use the issue templates repo. So we'll get started on that one. You can see there we've got the step 5, which is what we added. It's the extra bit of text to guide the user. But then I also mentioned earlier that you can obviously customize templates at a repo level specifically. So there's a lot of different options that when we ended up using these templates, we ended up deleting as a user or finding them not to be relevant. So we're going to go create our own ones for this specific repo. So the first thing we're going to do is create a config YAML. We're going to say that we don't want to allow blank issues. And we're going to have a read docs link, which in this case just points to my profile page. The next thing that we're going to do is create a bug markdown file. And this is going to be that markdown style issue template, where the description field is effectively filled out for you, and you can sort of guide the user through those hints. And then we'll also create a bug YAML, which is a similar layout to what we had earlier. We've just changed what some of these options are. And all of this code is currently open. So if you do want to go take a look, you can just head off to that dev-star-ops.org and take a look at this repo. So now if we go to new issue, you can see we've only got those 3 options. So it's the read docs link that we added. We've then got our bug form with the limited options that we had. So there's our placeholder text. We've got the expected behavior, sort of what app is it. We've still got the code of conduct link. But this is now specific to what our repo is. Cool. And then if you do edit the templates from inside the GitHub UI, as like sort of part of the preview, it shows you what that looks like. But what's a lot more helpful is when you edit this, down the right-hand side, you've given the inline docs for what you can and can't do with those issue forms, which is quite convenient instead of you having to go and find where that is, because I find sometimes browsing to docs isn't as easy as it should be. And then we'll go, like in just this case, we'll go and remove the triage link, or triage label, sorry. And again, if we go and create a new bug here now, you can see that the label that's applied is just the bug label, and the triage label is not applied automatically. And then again, to make sure that you see that there's no smoke and mirrors, we'll go edit one of these forms. We'll go edit this other form. And in this case, we'll just add to the title. So we'll say that we need to enter a title and set that as the default text. Obviously, earlier you saw when I went into the form, it was blank. But if we go and create a new issue, just to doubly make sure that bug report is still blank, that's not inheriting from that community help files anymore. And then I also mentioned that if a issue was created in the wrong repository, you could go to that issue. So in this case, this was created in the furry happiness repo. If you scroll down to the bottom right, there's a transfer issue link that lets you choose which repo you want to go to. Gives you a warning of what that's could affect. You transfer, and that now shows up in your new repo that you wanted to send it to. Cool. So then on to projects. What are projects? They're a convenient way to track work across repos. So there was, before, I suppose I never used the old style projects in GitHub, but the workflows that people would generally have were, I think, creative is the right word to say it. And the way they would sort of plan their work using just issues alone, and very creative with how they use their labeling. And it worked very well. Projects just make that a lot better. They remove a lot of the sort of creative thinking and the domain or the knowledge of that specific repo or product and how that works, and sort of just simplify that a lot more. So for each project, you can have custom fields, and those custom fields are specific to that project with the issues that are linked to that project, and they don't sort of impact other projects. For the demo, we're going to go ahead and create a new project to show you what that looks like. We're going to go and cover some of the project configuration, and then we're going to track some work in that project, and then show how the projects use issues specifically. So yeah, let's dive in. So as I mentioned, the first thing we need to do is create a new project. So we're going to head over to projects, create new project. You can see it's got the beta label there. And the first thing we're going to do is set the project name. The next thing we need to do is go over to the project settings. On the project settings, we'll just set the description and click save. And then, because things are easier to read if they're in Markdown, because it's marked up nicely, we'll go add a little bit of Markdown there for our project. hit save. Basically, anywhere where the description of this is shown, it will show similar to this. So you can see the markdown, the link to where the repo is nicely lit up. We'll stay away from the danger zone for this instance. And then we'll go to sort of manage access. And from here, you can set what the base permissions are that everyone gets inside this project. So you can say that everyone has no access. Maybe this is top super secret, or maybe everyone has access to it. You can invite more collaborators from here. Then under fields, you've got a list of all the different fields. In this case, we've only got the default, which is status with a to do, in progress, and done state. Quickly over workflows. It's very basic workflows. So when an event happens in the system, what must you do? So in this case, we're saying when an issue or a pull request is reopened, it must set the progress to in progress. But that specifically workflow was disabled. Now we're going to go and create some project work. So the first thing we're going to do is say that we want to create a modern login form. We then want to send a welcome back email. We then want to update the forgot password form. And then we want to set up a mail server. So at this stage, all of these issues are in a draft format. And we'll leave them like that for now. Because I guess maybe we don't know which repo they need to go to. We know that they're part of the work, but that's about as much as we know for now. We're also going to go and add a business value field with a low, medium, and high option inside them. And then I mentioned also that this is in a draft mode, if you will. So if you click on it, you can see there that it's in a draft mode. You can go and set what the markdown is for this. So for the send welcome back email, we'll go set some draft description so long. And now that we're sort of at the point where we want to actually start using these issues, we're going to have to create or convert these to issues. So for the first one, we'll click on the left-hand side and say convert to issue. We'll choose our silver robot repo. The next one, we'll open up that draft, and on the bottom right-hand corner, you can see there's also a convert to issue there. And then for the last one, we're going to use a field that's very specific to a repository, which is the milestone field. So yeah, we're going to choose milestone, and we're going to say that, first, because this is still a draft and it's not part of any repo, it's going to ask us where do we want this. So we'll say put it in the silver robot repo, and then you can see it asks us which milestone we want it to be a part of, which we won't select, but you can see on the left-hand side that that is actually an issue as well, or had been converted to one. So if we click into that issue, and then you can see that the checkboxes that we had there are sort of regular tasks. So on the top, you can see there's one of 3 tasks at the moment because we've marked track loss login date as completed. Now for this one, we want to break this down a little bit more. And there seems to be a bug here at the moment when you push things through from draft issues. So I'll just edit that quickly and update. But then you can see on the right-hand side, there's a convert to issue button that pops up. So if I click on that, this is now its own issue. And on this issue, then I can go and dive in more with what the tasks are that actually complete that issue. So at the top, you can see that this is tracked in issue 11. Similar to before, if I go and tick one of these, it shows that one of 2 tasks is completed. And then I can navigate back to that issue 11 again. And on the right-hand side, you can see it lists the projects, and there's that business value field that we had added. So we're just going to change the business value for this specific issue to medium. And we'll set the this milestone to sprint 2. Sorry. One thing that you would have noticed there, and when I refresh that page, my voice, is that the milestone column was missing. And that's because that save, or that little blue icon that showed there, shows that your changes aren't saved. So now we'll go and save that quickly. But you can see that when we added the column, the sprint 2 did come through as we would have expected. So we'll just quickly go and set the business value on these other ones to high quickly while we're here. We'll set the milestones up for them as well. So we'll set these to sprint 1. And then I think let's go through to this create modern login form. And for this one specifically, we'll go and close this issue. So now this issue is closed from the issue side. You can see from the milestones, this shows that there is some progress that's been made. So it shows we're at 33%. There's 1 closed issue. There's 2 open issues. But importantly with this is we had those workflows in the project. And those workflows in the project now should have kicked off. Well, I say kicked off as if it takes long. It's pretty instant when that happens. But to navigate back there, because it's a mission going back to the org each time and then back to the project, from the project itself, we can add that shortcut so that if someone does come into the project like this, we can head to the projects tab and immediately see which projects are used or referenced for this repository specifically. From this issue, you can see, as I mentioned, that it's now closed. So it's got the little purple tick there. And that's because this item close workflow had kicked off. So that says when an issue or pull request is closed, I must mark the item in the project is closed as well. And then I think that's all for this part of the demo. And now probably for my favorite part. If you thought I was super excited about the other stuff, just wait until you see how excited I am about this stuff. This is like where the real productivity kicks in. So let's flex with projects. So take it away. Not much text there. It's all flexing. Just some showing off to happen now. So let's assume we have a PR. If your team follows some interesting processes, what you might do is say, well, this PR is very important for us to bring in this sprint. Maybe you're doing some inner sourcing. It's a very big PR. So what you do is create an issue that says merge important files. Maybe it's saying it's very big, so it's going to take a long while. I don't know what the reasoning might be, but that's where you're at, right? You have to merge important files from the PR. Then you might go and add a link that says this is where the PR is. So in this case, it is PR 14. And then because just adding random links isn't helpful for anybody, when I add some information there. So you're going to say that we need to merge item 14 because it has some important things in it. Now you would normally go and submit this issue, right? The problem is then you've got 2 pieces of work to track for the same piece of work. So with GitHub projects, instead of us doing that, we can just use our we can use our pull request as if it's just another piece of work to track. So we've now added that to our project. So we're saying this PR, it's in the to-do state, it's medium business value, and we expect this to get done by sprint 1. And I had reset these off screen. That's why it didn't save, I promise. That is where there's some voodoo, because I did a oopsies. Cool. So now we've added that PR as part of our project. It's there. We can track it like it normally is. Super amazing. Cool. So now we're going to leave the mouse in the top corner, because now here's where the productivity kicks off. So we push Control Space, which drops us into this box. From there, we push hash. We can navigate around to our repos. We choose Silver Robot, navigate around, choose some things that we want to add to the project. So we're just going to navigate, push enter, add a bunch of stuff. Then we can use the arrow keys and we can just browse around the fields that's visible, and then we can go set the values. Again, the mouse is in the corner, no random operating weird trickeries. We're just using the keyboard as you would expect, right? Depending on what you're doing and how familiar you get with using the product, if you are just using keyboard shortcuts, you will be a lot faster at what you're doing. The other cool thing is the Control-K commands. So yeah, you can, when you push Control-K, you could just use your up and down arrows to navigate around. So yeah, we'll just say navigate to, and we'll browse around to project settings, go to workflows, maybe go back to project views. That's not super useful because that's maybe something that you would normally want to use your mouse for, unless you're quickly checking on the state of, like, I don't know, a workflow. But what is super useful is building these views out. So as you start typing, so yeah, I start typing new and it says, cool, there's new view. So I've added view 5. I'm going to go and say that I want to show the business value column. I also want to show the milestone column. But it's hard for me to see what's my high priority items here. So I'm going to say that I want to group by business value. I also want the high stuff to be at the top because that's what I care about most. So I'm going to say sort, go down to business value. That automatically sorts asynchronously, ascending, not asynchronously. So I'll sort again, and that will then sort in descending order. So my high value stuff shows at the top. And then remember, we need to save. So we go and save that. And now that's this view saved. And I accidentally opened a new tab. Okay, so we go a new view. Sometimes looking at this like a backlog or as a list isn't that useful. So we'll just do a new view and we'll say switch to a board. Now we've got a Kanban-like board where we can track our status. If we type filter by milestone and then we push Control F to go into that filter box, we can say filter by sprint 1. So now we're showing all our work by that current milestone, by the status. We'll go ahead and save that because we want to use that for later. But then if we do have other fields, so other drop list fields like business value, we can also go and say, well, actually, we want our custom columns to rather be this custom field. So now you've got your work grouped by low, medium, and high instead. So it's super customizable. Like however you feel like you need to visualize your work, that's how you can visualize it. There's no weird, I'm just going to pick on Azure DevOps because it's what I worked a lot with. There's no weird creating teams that use sub areas of other teams so you can create partial views of area paths and it's just weird and chaotic. Like you just use it the way you want to use it and it works amazingly. So what else? I could talk probably on hours for this, and I have done that by some people, but they said I talk too much. So I thought I'd just drop some links. So if you go off to the GitHub roadmap link, you can see how GitHub showcases their public roadmap using projects. They use labels quite heavily, but you can see it works quite nicely. And then it's important to remember, Issues just does the normal things that you would expect. As I was showing you, like I wanted to group by a custom column that I created. It lets me do that. I want to show things as a board instead of by as a list. It lets me do that. It lets me group the items by that custom column as well. If I say that I want to put this as a milestone, it doesn't say, please go to this other place first and create that milestone because this is not currently an issue. If I'm looking at the draft issue from there, I can convert it to an issue. If I'm at the issue side, I can just go and select the project field. I don't have to go back to the project to select that project field. I don't have to like do a whole bunch of navigation to do like small little items. Also, the pull requests and issues, you can use those in general conversations throughout the platform. So if you are commenting on issue, or if you're commenting on a PR, you can just go and hash link that comment, and then it'll get referenced from that location. You can also, from an issue, go and create a code branch. So depending on what process you're following, you might want to be branch per issue and then bring those in. So as a trunk-based dev, you might do that for every single issue. And the platform lets you easily create those branches and link them to issues inside the tool. So links from today's demo. As I mentioned, the org and all the projects and repos are public, but those are the specific ones from today's demo. And then the last thing to lightly touch on is GitHub Actions. And the reason for this is with lots of platforms to set up workflows on, so like in this case, every time an issue is created and every time an issue is updated, like there's a whole bunch of ceremony that you have to do with that. With GitHub Actions, it's just as simple as if you committing code. So when you commit code, there's a event that says that there's a push. There's also an event that says an issue is being created. It gets treated as if it's the same thing. It's just another event in the system. So you can do some pretty powerful automation of issues being created or new pull requests being created. But that's potentially a session for another day. So a little recap. Projects and issues work with you and how you want to work. There's no, well, I haven't found restrictions in how I feel comfortable working, that the platform's not let me work. There's lots of ways that I like working that, like I said, Azure DevOps, which I used for many years, just doesn't let me get that same level of productivity from. And I mentioned it with the project fields, but you can change and do stuff from the context that you're in. You don't have to navigate between lots of different screens or keep thousands of tabs open because you can only edit certain fields from certain places. It just works from where you are and how you like. Yeah, you labor that point more. And also, yeah, most of what, well, not all of it, but lots of the stuff that I showed today is still in beta. So this is only going to get better as time goes on. And thank you. I don't know if there's any questions that's come up through all of that talking.
Yeah, it looks like Richard had a few questions.
Cool.
Yeah, he had a question here. Can you show how to create or edit an issue form?
Cool. So I had that one up. I can bring it up again.
Yeah, I think you did cover it, but maybe we should just
Yeah.
go over it again. Maybe Richard's got some other questions about that as well.
Yeah, let me bring that up. Well, so did I go to the org? No, I didn't go to the org. This one's the org. So for that repo specifically, I use .edit for everything. I found out the other day that I didn't actually have much dev tools on my machine because I just use the web editor for everything. And like egg on my face, I found out as well that this exists for Azure DevOps. I wanted to show someone how cool Azure DevOps isn't, and I dot and it did this as well, but it only has a read-only mode. So it's still not as cool, but it is there. So yeah, the custom forms themselves, basically inside so it's all convention based. So inside the GitHub folder, there's the issue_template folder. And then any of these files that you create with a YAML or YAML file should get picked up as issue forms. So you see we got a basic declaration here. So what the name is, a little description of what it is, what labels get applied automatically. And then we define what that looks like. So we've got a little markdown intro that says, thanks for taking the time to fill this out. We've got that text area, which is that markdown editor to provide rich feedback back. For where we did have in the previous template a sort of do these steps, we've now got that here as well, but we put it as a placeholder so that we're able to type over that. So if I go to this repo and we go to issues, new issue, and we go back to this one. So in this case, it shows us there, this is a hint of what you can do, but when you start typing, because that is a placeholder, it'll just take the text that you've got. And then, like I mentioned as well, we've got this sort of richer multi-select, in this case, a single select of what the what the available options are that someone can provide us information with. But yeah, it's all inside this this issue forms, issue templates folder, both for the Markdown templates and for issue form templates. And then there's a config for the other stuff. So for contact links, or whether you want to allow or not allow blank issues.
Well, and I think you just also answered the Richard's next question, which is can you add, edit, disable fields, or just look and feel? But it looks like you just covered that.
Yeah. So for this one, yeah, so you can add and edit the different fields you want. The specific look and feel, when you do forms, you don't, like, this is what it looks like, right? You don't get to choose more complex than that. If you go the Markdown route, then you can be a bit more creative with what you put inside that Markdown, bearing in mind that someone can just go and edit or delete any of this. The other side of this is, once something's created, so we had created this off a form. Once this is in the system, it becomes all just Markdown. So that issue form is just for that initial create, to guide users and giving you quality issues, especially when some of the bigger open source projects have hundreds and thousands of issues. And a lot of time when you go through those, it's hard to understand what someone wants, and often people would log stuff. So I know for the migration utility that I work with some of the other MVPs, we get logged an issue, it's a title, some very basic description, and then we ask for more information, and it's weeks go by, months go by, and the person that originally asked it, or like I said, hey, this thing's broken, they never come back to give more information. So at least if you have something like this that guides them along that journey of providing you what you need, you sort of get that when it gets created, which is quite cool.
It's cool. I really like what I saw here today. Looks like something that we need to adopt as well. But very cool. Yeah, I don't think there's any more questions, except there's lots of love for YAML in the comments.
I love YAML, excepting for when I push tabs.
Yeah.
I had a demo. It sucks though, because someone will I need this thing, and then someone will Teams you this.
Uh-huh.
And then it'll take you 10 minutes to put it in because you're lazy to type it out. So you'd get it through Teams, but then Teams breaks the formatting, and then this doesn't work. And then your life's just hell.
Yeah.
There was a meme around DevOps, and the person's like, I bought DevOps. And the next frame's you can't buy DevOps. And he's like, no, look. And then it shows a box, and it's out the box is coming YAML. The person turns around and says, look, guys, he bought DevOps. It's everything these days is just YAML.
Yes. Yeah. I can't say I enjoy typing YAML. But yeah, it works. Okay, cool. But yeah, but thank you very much for this. This was really, really useful. I don't think there's any more questions. Awesome. Yeah, so yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think we can wrap up for the evening then, and let everyone have their evenings back. But thank you to both the speakers tonight. It was really, really awesome content. And yes, thank you to everyone for attending. And just remember, as we had these awesome speakers tonight, everyone has something to say. So please do also submit talks as well to the user group. Even if you're starting out, it will also be interesting to see what you've learned, as well as maybe a new developer and things like that in the groups as well. It's always interesting to see learning talks as well. So you don't have to be a pro like Gordon and Lou. You can also be starting out. It would be really awesome to hear from you. Also, just don't forget, thank you for the people that has submitted the survey already. Please don't forget to fill it in, because that will definitely help us come up with better events, so better online events, and also help us with our planning for our in-person events. And then, yes, I hope to see you very, very soon in person and in 3D. I'm so used to seeing all these 2D people in Teams and these YouTube videos and stuff. So yeah, looking forward to seeing the community in 3D again. But thank you everyone for attending, and yes, have a good night.